Hi, good evening. Sorry, yeah, everything just hung a bit for a second there. I'm on a borrowed laptop because my computer failed earlier today, unfortunately. So sorry for the running about and being a little bit late, but I had to get everything done. So I'm very sorry about that. Welcome along. As ever, quite a few questions to go through once again. And if you've got any questions that you would like to bring, then please pop them in the chat to the right-hand side or pop them on Twitter at John O'Bullard. As ever, if you could share the link so we can try and get as many people in here as possible, that would be very, very much appreciated. As always, a quick plug before we crack on. The Hockey from the Pond, Hockey Across the Pond podcast. I was on there as a guest for this week's show. Was talking about GB under 18s, talking about the Panthers, talking about any of the good young players that are coming through the junior ranks at the moment. It was a good long interview, so for about an hour. So have a listen. It's a great listen with Mark Rackham and Caitlin Berry. So Hockey Across the Pond, it is available on YouTube. If you just search for it, you will find it there. Or if you go to Hockey Across the Pond on Twitter, you will find the link there. Right, we shall crack straight on, and I think we'll go to probably what is the most controversial hockey incident from the past week, and that is, of course, the goal or no goal in Belfast that happened in the game against Cardiff. Of course, Belfast winning that game 1-0 on Friday evening, but Cardiff having a goal disallowed or chalked off on video review. So the question that came through was from my good friend Greg Hewish, who is a Cardiff fan, when I said, "What?" Asking for questions this week, and he came in with, well, wonder what we should talk about. Well, obviously, he was referring to that goal. So was it a goal or not, in my opinion? From watching it in real time and watching the Premier Sports footage, you would say, what's wrong with that? But of course, as we all know, and from what the Elite League have tweeted out, which was very good of them, by the way. I was quite impressed the fact that they did tweet out the footage that the officials got to see for extra clarity. So I think the league deserve a lot of credit for that, to be honest. So normal footage, yeah, it looks a fine goal. Goal was given on the night, but it did go to review. And then from looking at that overhead camera, there is definite contact with Bescarawani on the play. Now, it's not much of a contact. It's very slight contact, but the rules do quite clearly state that any contact is to be given as goaltender interference. So for me, the call on the night was correct. It shouldn't have been a goal going by the rule book. Now, that's not to say had that happened to the Panthers, I wouldn't be annoyed. There was obviously a lot of annoyed Cardiff fans, and to be fair to a lot of Belfast fans who were talking about it, they were saying that if it had happened to them or if it happened to Belfast, they'd be pretty annoyed about it too. I can totally understand that. It did look a bit soft, but by the letter of the law, by the rules, that goal shouldn't actually have been given. So for me, the officials made the correct call on the play. Probably going to get a lot of Cardiff fans disagreeing with that, but you've got to say they are the officials. They know the rules back to front. They went and reviewed it, and from the review, they decided that it wasn't a goal. So I go with the officials on that one, and reading the rule book, that backs that up. It does look soft, yes. It does look a bit harsh, and I'm sure that any fans of any club who would have had that decision go against them would be angry, understandably so. But for me, the officials got that one spot on review, and the whole purpose of having a video review system there is to check those sort of decisions. So sorry, Cardiff fans, but for me, on the night the correct call was made by the officials, as harsh as that may seem. But there we go. And if Cardiff end up losing the league by a point, I'm sure that one will come up again. But yeah, right. So let's move on to the next one. And good evening to Jack and Chris in the chat. Thank you for popping along and watching. And next one comes from Greg Crooks, who is at CD Ted on Twitter. A two-part question on this, which is, what happened to all the doom-mongers wanting the league shut down at Christmas? Are they at games? And the second question is, talk of lifting all restrictions by March. Does this mean a normal playoff finals weekend, or will people still be too cautious? To go to the first one, obviously a lot of cancellations in the Elite League over the Christmas period. Really right up until now, to be honest. I do honestly think that the season was on a bit of a knife edge with the number of games that were getting cancelled at that point, especially with then the restrictions coming in Scotland and Wales, which meant that Scotland have been restricted to 200 fans. That's being lifted from next week. And Cardiff can't have any fans at all in their building. I believe that is being lifted from the 28th of this month. But I stand to be corrected on that one. But I think Cardiff can have fans in the building from that date once again. So I do think at that point, the league was on a knife edge, and I don't think it was sort of doom mongering. I think it was just people taking a realistic attitude towards it. So I just think thankfully we seem to have got through the other side. There was a raft of rescheduled games announced today. There's another raft of rescheduled dates to come through, but thankfully it all seems to be sorting itself out. Let's just hope that we can continue with a period of no teams having to go into COVID protocol once again. On to the second question of lifting all restrictions by March. Does this mean a normal playoff finals weekend? I think it was always going to be a normal playoff finals weekend. I think the only thing about playoffs is, could it possibly be delayed in order to allow a bit of an easier rescheduling of games? I'm led to believe that there is now a free date at the NIC a week later, so that I understand that there may be a possibility that the playoffs could be put back, but I'm sure a decision will be made on that soon, I would expect. But we will see what happens. But I suppose if the teams feel that they can get all the games in the actual scheduled time, then don't move it. But if it is looking a bit difficult to reschedule all those games, then maybe it could get put back. But I guess we shall see in the near future with that one. Will people still be too cautious? I think there's still a lot of cautious people out there, and I think you only have to look at the attendances around the country to see that people are cautious. I know people who have tickets and aren't coming because of the risk, because they don't feel that they want to take the risk, which is obviously their personal choice, and I absolutely respect that. I think if there is a playoff finals weekend, I would expect it to be a sellout. It is my personal opinion on that one. Let's have a look at the comments. Mark Rackham, going back to our first question. Evening, Mark. If any minor contact on a goaltender means a goal is ruled out, I wasn't sure on the exact rules, then surely we should be seeing more reviews. Yeah, you would think that. And I think that was a lot of opinions that was coming out afterwards, that, surely pretty much every goal where a netminder is screened is going to be called up. But the rules were published. Somebody put the rules up on one of the forums, and it is quite clear that contact on the netminder should lead to the goal being ruled out. Jamie, when is the EIHL playoff final weekend scheduled for currently? I believe, I just have a quick scan of my, I think it is the weekend of the 23rd and 24th of April currently is when it's scheduled for. I'm sure someone will confirm that. They'll have a quick look, but that is when I believe it is scheduled for at the moment. Let's crack on with the questions. Next one comes from Jordan Ward. I think the Challenge Cup desperately needs a revamp. 24 games to eliminate one team doesn't make sense. What are your suggestions to improve it? Do you think a knockout cup involving both the elite and National League teams would be a good idea for the Challenge Cup? To start with that one, no, I don't. For the simple reason you've got 14 import teams going against 2 import teams. It will be far too lopsided. As much as I would like to see an FA Cup style competition, I think you need to have a bit more parity between the teams in the National League and in the Elite League. Otherwise, it's just going to be too one-sided. I don't think you're going to get shocks when you've got 2 import teams going against 14 import teams. I think we've gone on ad nauseum, and most people have said how ridiculous it is that there was 24 games to eliminate one team in the Challenge Cup this year. So I think that is obviously a no, and it needs to change. What are my suggestions to improve it? I would just go back to the old way of doing it, which if Glasgow are available to take part, which I assume they will be next season, 2 groups of 5, play each other once home and away, and do that in the first 4 weeks of the season. So all the Challenge Cup group games are played before the Elite League regular season commences. I think that's the best way to do it. And then that gives the opportunity to have, if you want to have quarterfinals, you're still only eliminating 2 teams. I would prefer it to go straight to semi-finals with the top 2 from each group going to the semi-finals. However, if you choose to go quarters, semis and final, you then have the opportunity to finish by Christmas if you have all the group games played by the end of September, which is, I think, is the way it should go, and that's how it should go. I think that would just make it a much better competition. It's how the old Benson and Hedges Cup used to run, and I can't see any reason why they wouldn't do it like that now. I just think it would be so much better. The Elite League import limit needs to go down and National League needs to go up for development purposes. I would agree, Jamie. I think that's something we covered on a previous hockey chat. 14 is too many. But the other thing is, can the National League teams afford to go with more imports? I think that's the question. But I do agree that the Elite League import limit does need to go down for development purposes. I would agree entirely on that one. Paul Kelsall asks, who are the 2 teams missing out on the playoffs? That is a good question. I think at the moment you've got to say that Fife, I think, they're not looking good at the moment as regards playoff qualification. If I just get the standings up on my phone, because I'm on the laptop, I'm not on my usual big screen, so I can't have lots of little things open. So I have to refer to the mobile stuff to have a look at things. But Fife currently bottom, 13 points from 23 games, and they're 4 points behind the Dundee Stars in 8th, who have played a game less. Glasgow are 16 points from 19 games. I think, looking at it at the moment, I think Fife are probably the most likely of all 10 teams not to make it at the moment. Then you're looking at a few. Manchester have played 26 games and got 20 points, which currently puts them in 6th place. And Guildford are on a horrendous run of form. They've 21 from 25 in 5th, and then it's a big gap to the Panthers in 4th with 27 from 24. Coventry, really surprised. I was surprised when I looked at this and saw that they were on playing less than 500 hockey, because I think they've got a really decent side and a very, very good netminder. They're 18 points from 19 games, and then Dundee 17 points from 22. I think if I had to stick my neck out at the moment, I would say it would probably be Fife, and then probably Perm one of Dundee or Glasgow, for the simple reason that Glasgow have still got such a large number of games to get in. And Coventry could be dragged into that as well, as they've only played 19 games. So both Coventry and Glasgow with 35 games to fit in between now and the end of the season. And then the next is Dundee, who played 22. So they're already 3 games to the good. So I think Fife would be my first choice. My second choice would be one of Glasgow, Dundee, or Coventry. With at the moment, I'd say looking at the different qualities of the teams, Dundee out of those, but it will be very, very close, I think. But I guess as the season goes on, I think probably another month we'll see a lot of movement in that area, and it will probably be able to give more of a sort of knowledgeable guess on who might miss out on the playoffs regards that one. Alex Morton, who's a Panthers fan, and this is one that was actually left over from last week. It came through just a little too late to make last week's show last Thursday. And that is, do we think the Panthers need to take a different approach when it comes to imports? We make wholesale changes each year with only a couple of imports retained, normally those at university. Do we need to keep a core of the team together for multiple years? Yes, we do. It worked for Cardiff, but it's also got to be the right imports. I've gone on in all these hockey chats really this season about the lack of quality that there appears to be in the Panthers side. Would you want to keep a core of this current import roster? I'm not so sure. But it is something that we seem to suffer from quite a lot, is we don't seem to retain imports as much as other teams do. And you only have to look how it paid dividends for Cardiff when they were in their pomp and winning championships and winning playoff championships. The core of that squad stayed together, and it was all quality players as well. I'm thinking like Gleason Fournier, Joey Martin, Joey Haddad, Ben Bounds in net for several seasons. You know, that it was a real quality squad that they had with the Devils there. And I'd love to see something similar with the Panthers, but to be honest, there's not many of the current 14 imports that I would like to keep on a long-term basis, if I'm honest. We know Jeremy Welsh will be here next year because he's on the university deal. I do like Kevin Domingue and Christophe Boivin. I think they are very good players. After that, though, I'm struggling a bit. I know there'll be Panthers fans watching, so who do you think? But I understand the premise of the question, Alex, and I totally agree with you that we do need a core, but that core needs to be of a quality that you can keep counting on season after season. Do we think that the imports that are at the Panthers at the minute, we could get enough of a quality core out of them? I don't think we can. And I don't like saying that, but realistically, I just don't think the quality is there to put a core, because you'd be looking at probably 7, 8, possibly up to 9 imports if you're going to keep with 14. And at the moment, is there sort of 7 to 9 imports you will want to take over to next season? I'm not sure there's many Panthers fans that would, to be perfectly honest and realistic. But totally agree with the premise of the question, Alex. Totally agree. Next one comes from Adam RP89 on Twitter. He says, "Do you think we are actually improving, or do you think that Tim Wallace leaving and the teams we have played since he has left have made us seem better than we actually are? As they aren't completely top tier teams, and it's possible we could have had this win streak either way." Yeah, it's possible. You can't argue with the form since Tim Wallace left, and it's something I put on Twitter a few times. I still think Tim Wallace going was the wrong decision, and that is a hill I will die on. But at the same time, 5 wins and an overtime loss from the 6 games since is excellent form. You cannot argue with that. But as Adam says, you have to look at the teams we played. We played 5 twice in that time, the bottom side. We played Guildford twice, who are on a horrendous run of form. I think, is it 11 straight defeats they're on now? Glasgow, which was a good win in Glasgow on Friday night, and then the overtime loss to Dundee, which was the third in the 3-on-3. And actually, I really, really pleased with the Panthers' performance. Watched that on the webcast in the pub in Edinburgh on Sunday night, and I was really pleased with the way that Panthers battled back from 2 goals down twice. A bit of a mix-up for the overtime winner, but to get 5 points out of 6, and I saw someone make the point, even if we was top of the league, 5 points out of the 6 on a triple header would be a very, very good return, and I wouldn't totally and utterly agree with that. So you cannot argue with the form since, but like Adam says in his question, you have to look at who we played. But we were still going into that run on a horrendous run of form. So to get 10 points, 9 points out of 10 in the league and the Challenge Cup win out of those 6 games is a very, very good return, in my opinion. But I think the biggest test now comes up with the away leg in Guildford tomorrow night, which is a very, very big game to try and get into the semi-final. So going in there with a 2-goal lead, hopefully we can keep hold of that and maybe even extend it. And the other big test is Saturday when we play the Sheffield Steelers away. That will tell us how much improvement has been made, because let's face it, the 2 Christmas games weren't really that close, especially the game in Nottingham that was on Premier Sports. So I think how we perform on Saturday against Sheffield will tell us how much improvement or not there has been since Tim Wallace has left the Panthers. The other thing to remember as well, and one thing that still worries me, is we have brought another body in, which is good news, but we are still only playing with 5D, and that worries me, because I think they could get very tired very quickly, and that leads to mistakes. But one thing that my good friend Paul Baum did say on Sunday when we was watching the game was how much that the defence looked tighter in the game against Fife and in the game against Dundee as well. So we shall see what happens with that. But 5D for each game, especially with the amount of games that are coming now, isn't ideal. Let's be honest. Graham Patience, good evening to you, sir. Let's have a look. Do you think it will take the player market a year or 2 to settle? ECHL has been wild with player turnover this season and some wacky high-scoring games. It probably will, especially with the complications of COVID put on top and vaccination statuses and all that sort of thing. It is probably going to be a bit erratic, certainly for the rest of this season, I think, possibly for next season as well. Then hopefully it will start settling down again. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot have been saying that the market is very, very dry. Players still seem to be getting players in, or certain teams do, but there's from talking to a few people, there is not a lot of availability out there at the minute. Hopefully that will change hopefully in the close season when it comes to recruiting for next season's team. But I think you're right. I think it will probably take a season or 2 to settle down a little bit until it sort of gets back to some sort of normal. Eric Holland, who's a Steelers fan, asks, if you had to write the job description for the next Panthers head coach, how would it read? Thick skin, very much required for that role, I think. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because how much recruiting are they doing? How much are they choosing of their own team? Is Guy Doucette recruiting the whole team? It seems that he is. So essentially, the job description's got to say, come in, coach a team, but you're not picking them. I'd like to think that the head coach, whoever it is, and I'd like to think Tim Wallace did as well, have some sort of input into the makeup of the roster. I would hope that's the case. And Guy Doucette strikes me as a sort of person who would want to get the opinions of his head coach. But having to write the job description, that's a really, really difficult one. And I mean, at the moment, would it be fair to take it away from Mark Matheson at the moment, considering the run of form we're on? Probably not. But with the sort of, 3 months left until the end of the season, would you want to get a coach in and bedded in for next season if you was going to bring a coach in? I don't think now, having thought about it a bit, that a coach for the rest of the season isn't a good idea. I think if we was going to look for a coach, it would have to be one who was going to come in and also be the coach for next season, so they could build for the rest of this season, take a look at the team, and then build again in the off season towards the 2022-23 campaign. But at the moment, I can see Mark Matheson and Stevie Lee continuing in their roles for the rest of the season. I think that Lane has to go. I tell you what, Jack, do me a favour, and I can understand that opinion if you are just purely going on points, but watch him. Watch what he does away from the play. Watch how he makes room for other players. And also, I think he's the plus-minus leader on the team. I'll have to double-check that when I come off, but I'm pretty sure he is the plus-minus leader. Which says that he is contributing in other ways to me. I spent time watching him for a couple of games. You just purely watching him when he was on the ice. He does an awful lot of work off the puck, which makes space for his line mates. So, yeah. If you're just going on stats, Jack, I can understand that opinion. But just next game, just go and have a look. Go and just watch him when he's on the ice and watch what he does. Final question. So if you've got any more, pop them in the chat box. I'll have a quick look on Twitter and just see if none have gone through there. So final question for the moment, unless we get some more. So if you've got any other hockey related questions, just pop them in the chat and I will get to them once I've gone through this. And it comes from the esteemed Nottingham Panthers announcer, David Steph Litchfield. Great to have a question from you, Steph. And he says, reference Kay Burley's proposed skating lesson with Omar Pacha. Do you think she realised how long it takes to get to Dundee? So for those who are wondering what Steph is on about, Omar Pacha was on Sky News this morning with Kay Burley being interviewed about the situation in Scotland and the situation with only having 200 fans in and the effects it's having. But at the end of the interview, Kay Burley talks about being on Dancing on Ice and how difficult it is to skate, which Omar agrees with her and then invites her up to Dundee to take part in a training session, to which she said she would. But I think she probably doesn't. She doesn't realize how long it takes to get to Dundee. Because we was looking, because I've been in Scotland this weekend, for triple header. Obviously couldn't go because of the restrictions, so managed to change it to 3 nights in Edinburgh, which was great. But even then, it was, I think we were looking at if we'd gone to Dundee, we were looking at £50 return on the train, which was a lot of money, considering that Dundee is only about an hour and 10 minutes away on train. So yeah, so in a way, I'm sort of pleased that we managed to sort of sit nicely in a pub and spend £15 for the webcast rather than spend £70 on train tickets and match tickets. So yeah, but by the by, it's obviously having a real. It's obviously having a real effect on the Scottish teams. I believe they've got £350,000 to share amongst Scottish ice hockey from the Scottish government. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see how things hopefully get back to normal when after, I think, from next Monday they can start having capacity crowds again, which is great news for the Scottish teams. And we'll also see if Kay Burley gets to go on a training session with the Dundee Stars. Okay, what spot's popping in? Is it Croce or Crocky ZX? Keep your eye on Swindon forward 18 Reed Sayers. He's 20-year-old and he's just great. I can definitely see him in the Elite League in the next couple of years, if not on a two-way deal sooner. Yeah, I've seen Reed Sayers. I think I first noticed him when he was at Okanagan Hockey Academy when they were getting to a lot of finals and doing really, really well a few years ago. Certainly Jordan Kelsall was in that team as well. But yes, he is someone I've seen, and I believe he's scoring a lot of points at the minute for Swindon. So yes, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Elite League at all. Probably on the two-way first, but it's quite often that those two ways then lead to permanent contracts. So, and we need to see more young Brits in the Elite League. Let's be honest. Certainly, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. What's Lane say? I'm not going on one, but if you say Lane needs to go, then you're wrong. He is a fast, speedy lad that has the skill and scored quite a few goals lately and good assists. So I don't know what you're coming at. So that's obviously referring to Jack. Good play skillful, but lacks a consistent eye for goal and finishing touch. He did score a couple against Fife, though. Both very good finishers, to be fair to him. Sam Talbot and Sean Norris, both playing MK currently, should be in the Elite League in the next 1 or 2 years. That's Jamie. Yeah. I think there's a lot of talent in the National League that does look like it could come through to the Elite League. And I think more and more are being given the chance. So they're two to keep an eye on. I think a few others. The under 18s will be worth a look at because there'll be a few in there. I think Archie Hazeldine, who's already played for Manchester this season, I think he could certainly make the step up to Elite League level. Jack Hopkins, we already know about. He's in that under 18 team. And there'll be a few more as well. Milik Martelli, who's been playing with MK, but also at Streatham, unbelievably quick defenseman. I think he could certainly find himself in the Elite League as well. I did see something about Tim Wallace. Jamie, yeah, thoughts on Tim Wallace going back to MK? I think it's a good move for Milton Keynes. And it's a good move for Tim Wallace. He's obviously in the country. He knows the setup there. He knows the rink. He knows I assume he knows the people there. I know it's new owner since he was last there. So I think that is a good move for him. And also he's suiting up again and playing, which makes me wonder why him and Doucette haven't been suiting up for the Panthers when we were short, but all in the past now. I think it's a good move for him and a good move for MK. And I wish him all the very, very best. And I hope he does well because, like I say, I didn't agree with his dismissal by the Panthers, but I ain't in charge, so I'm just glad to see he's got a job so quickly. And I'm glad he's staying in British hockey because I think he's a good guy and a good coach, and it'll be good to have his influence around there. Mark, I wonder if the Elite League will see a different kind of import influx in the next few years with the success of guys recruited out of youth sports. There is value to be had there, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, Sean Richards, he's been playing for the Panthers. Very quick, works very hard, and has now started to put points up as well. I think with the Elite League, there's no real scouting network, so it can be a bit hit and miss. But yes, I think that is where you are going to start seeing a lot of players coming from. Maybe if there's going to be problems with costs and recruitment and getting guys over here, I think it is quite an untapped area. And I think the NCAA as well is another untapped area. There's only really, I think, Belfast who have used that route before, and there's so many good players at NCAA level, and U Sports is obviously the Canadian equivalent of that. So yes, I think we still will see a few more players come from that area for the simple reason that they're going to be cheaper, I would expect, to recruit than the sort of AHL, ECHL, DEL guys. So yeah, I think we will start seeing more and more players come through that route. Anthony, I got to see Jack Hopkins up close at the weekend. The talent in that lad, yeah, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. He's absolute natural goal scorer. Ollie Endicott and Kane Russell to be stars in a few years too. Both played for GB under 18. They've been announced on the under 20 team. Yeah. Andrew Twigg, the Elite League positions itself as not a development league, but with the limited rosters and COVID, etc., will this season, next season be a breakthrough for homegrown talent? I think there's been quite a lot of homegrown talent breaking through. I think Josh Waller is probably the big one in Cardiff. He's got a lot of ice time, scoring a lot of points. So I think he has been the big breakout talent of this season. Joe Hazeldine in Manchester as well, getting proper minutes and also special team time in Manchester. So that'll be good for his development. I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Hazeldine in the senior GB squad for the World Championships this season. But yes, you're right that it doesn't position itself as a development league, but I think it's good to see that the Brits who are getting the chance are really grasping the nettle and coming through and making a real good case for getting more younger Brits into the teams, without a doubt. The rapport between the MK owners and Tim is still very good. Remember, if MK stayed in the Elite League, Tim was going to be head coach of that Elite League team. Yes, he would have been. Yeah, you're absolutely right. John Ward, totally agree with 2 groups of 5 for the Challenge Cup and straight to the semis. Yeah, I think that's something that the competition needs, definitely. Righty ho, I'll give you 30 seconds. If anybody has got any more questions to pop through, just a big thank you to those who have sent questions through as ever. We don't have a show without them. So thank you so much to everyone who takes part and sends questions through and gives me something to talk about on a Tuesday night when I when I can find a working computer. Anyway, thankfully, I managed to borrow a laptop for this, as my 8-year-old iMac looks to have met its mortal coil, I think, and so unfortunately had to order a new computer. Am I joining you tomorrow? Yes, I'm sure I will find time to pop along. I've not popped along to one of your live ones for a while, but yes, I certainly will, Anthony. I will make the effort to come along and watch tomorrow. So Anthony does the Banners on the Wall live stream. If you go to Banners OTW at Banners OTW on Twitter and follow that, it's always a good watch. All the National League and NIHL action and a lot of discussion of the Brits that we've been talking about tonight as well. You can get more of a lowdown on them from Anthony tomorrow night. So please do watch that. Okay, with that very odd comment at the bottom. I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me as ever. If you have any questions in the meantime ahead of next week, then please do send them to me on Twitter at John O'Bullard. DMs are always open, so you can send them via there or just at me, and I will pick it up for next week. But until then, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Pleasure to have your company. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy whatever hockey you go to watch this week as well. And I will speak to you again next week. Take care and good night.